Welcome today to Learning to Lead. This is a podcast that is oriented towards those who are desiring, ambitious, or emerging as leaders, and those who are already in leadership roles. We're going to talk about a variety of subjects, always something that's interesting and relevant and practical. And today, I'm blessed to introduce a subject with a couple that I've known for over 10 years. And what I've known is their life has not been short of dealing with crises. Can you imagine that Christians actually go through crises today? Well, we all know that that is true. The reality is the Bible doesn't say if you face a trial, it simply says when you face a trial, and it tells us how to deal with it. There's some practical aspects, emotional, mental, psychological, and spiritual aspects and dimensions to walking through a crisis. I thought it would be helpful for you to hear a real story of what a couple and a family has faced as they faced what would have seemed at that moment to be an insurmountable crisis. Today, I'm pleased to introduce you to Jon and Ashley Carolino. Carolinos, welcome to Learning to Lead. It's a blessing to have you on the program today.
I'm happy to be here.
All right, how about let's start? Just introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll start by giving some background. Who's first?
Yeah. We're Jon and Ashley Carolino, and we've been married for 14 years.
15 in January.
15 in January.
That's a blessing.
That's
I mean,
great.
if we just said that alone, that would be.
That's right.
Thank you,
Program's over
Jesus,
now.
we made it.
Yeah, done. And we've been attending Riverbend Church for, at least over 10 years now. And we have 3 wonderful little girls. One is in heaven. Her name is Isabella. And then we have a 7-year-old named Ayla and a 6-year-old named Autumn.
What a blessed family.
Yeah.
What backdrop, how would you describe your 15 years of marriage in general?
In general. Ooh, Bobby. Sustained, I think, is the biggest word for our marriage. I mean, as Jon mentioned, our first daughter passed away, that she would be 13 years old this coming December. And so, that was 2 years into our marriage. And so we have gone through it. And I am so thankful that we can testify that we're happy married couple today. And as we'll get further into the podcast, what God has sustained us through, I'm so grateful that we're still married.
Yeah, when you prepare for, you're going to be talking about some of these deep areas of life that you've walked through, it really, you realize how much you kind of push back and push away and push down. Mm-hmm. And I know y'all have posted numerous things over the years, but this is also an opportunity for you to revisit some things, revisit some of the feelings, the emotions, and that's although sometimes challenging, I think that's a good thing. But what I really want to do is provide some narrative that will help people just identify with your story, because this is a story. It's a story of redemption. It's a story of miracles. It's a story that will, I know, be an encouragement to others as they hear it. So why don't we start off with a summarized context for where your life was at, because this story focuses on you and Autumn, and it involves the rest of your family, but it's really focused on a crisis that you faced with your youngest daughter. Yes. And so give us a little bit of family background that will help us be ready for that.
Sure. So we have a 7-year-old named Ayla, and we grew our family through adoption with her, which is another story. And our youngest is Autumn, who is 6 years old. And just from the beginning of her life, she is actually a miracle to begin with. She did not have the genetic condition that our first daughter had. And so her life was such a gift from the womb. We had extra testing earlier on in our pregnancy because of our first daughter's condition. And she did not have that. But in the womb, we found out that she actually had a genetic heart condition. And so she's always had this medical track that we've been alerted to and prayer over. And so leading up to what happened to our 6-year-old when she was 2 years old is that She was at the time of 1.5 years old, started to have some stomach problems, just some constipation, typical 2-year-old things that you wouldn't think much about.
Right.
And so we did multiple visits to the pediatrician's office. And again, this was in COVID timeframe too. And so we were limited to being able to go in and out and have proper care. But it wasn't getting any better. We got x-rays done that showed maybe just some blockage, continue to do measures to try and aid that. But I'm so grateful that Holy Spirit gave discernment in that to not let that just be the final word. So within 6 months, she had 2 rare high fevers that were unexplainable with no other symptoms. And so I felt prompted, no, we need to get a fresh set of eyes of pediatrician on her, who then, I'm so thankful, urged us to go to the emergency room at that point because something was feeling a little bit low, things were off, not adding up. So let's get some extra imagery that we were going to do. And so that's the background on Autumn.
So, Jon, would you say that your marriage and as parents, y'all were kind of living? Was life pretty normal raising Autumn, or was it just kind of normal, but with this in the back of your mind, kind of a medical alert, like pay attention to this?
I think because it was COVID and she had a heart condition, we were extra cautious on doing everything because at that time, kind of early COVID, mid COVID, people still. We didn't know what was going on.
Right.
People didn't know what was going on. And with her heart condition and the things we heard about, what COVID could do to people that had heart issues, we were just a little extra protective of her. But kind of, we were in 2021 at this point and weren't really too concerned at that point with Autumn's health until, she started spiking these fevers.
Okay. So let's just start with a snapshot of when your general sense of awareness of just taking care of our daughter all of a sudden ended up with like, oh no. Tell us how that shock and that news hit you.
Yeah, so we were thinking it was going to be intestinal, something simple that could be fixed. We were not going into that ER expecting a cancer diagnosis for a 2-year-old. So going into that, I mean, we knew the medical field already given our first daughter. We knew it because of Autumn's open heart surgery at 3 months old. So going into it, we were like, we'll just get it checked out. We'll resolve it. But late at night in an ER room, we've done CT scan. We've done blood work. Your daughter is severely anemic right now. Something's going on with her blood. Let's get a further scan. And it was because of her heart condition that they pushed to get the CT done. And then in walks 2 doctors with a box of tissues.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And we knew immediately that it was not going to be good. And one of the doctors was tearing up trying to tell us what was going to be. They then proceeded to tell us what they found, which was a 5 by 5 by 7 inch tumor mass in our tiny 2-year-old's little body.
I was going to say, let's remember the size of this child, right?
I mean, later on, as we discovered what exactly it was, which was a kidney cancer, we named it Goliath because it was massive in size.
I mean, at that point, it was like a quarter size of her body.
Yeah, it was crossing the midline of her body, pushing all her organs. And you wouldn't have known it. We had no clue her belly was soft, looked like a normal baby toddler's belly.
Like one who just ate too much or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, she was lethargic a little bit prior to going into the hospital, but nothing out of the ordinary. And so they immediately said, we're admitting you into CHKD's oncology ward. And
which is a local children's hospital.
Yes.
A very special hospital.
Yeah.
And once they said oncology, I mean, our hearts dropped. Our hearts dropped, and it just didn't feel real.
Yeah.
At that point.
We often tell people about the phases that people go through when they face a crisis, and that initial diagnosis or news. It might be the news of a loved one's accident or something. But so, what was your reaction on a tangible level? What was your emotional and then we'll follow up with spiritual. But what was your mental, emotional reactions immediately?
So in my family, I come from a background where I had lost my mom from breast cancer. I had lost my grandmother, who pretty much became my mom, from colon cancer. So to me, cancer,
the C word was
a death sentence, like for sure death sentence. And I remember even when I heard about it, I think just the way I'm programmed, I was a little overly optimistic to be like, well, maybe it's just like a thing, maybe it's just like something that it's, and I think in the back of my mind, I was like, the doom was just starting to consume my brain. And so, I mean, that first night, I think it was just confusion because I had to go home and go take care of Ayla.
It was just 3 at the time.
Yeah,
she was a little baby toddler
she
too.
had no clue what was going on.
Yeah.
wow.
And I'm now having to switch from concern to joyful, playful dad, and that was painfully hard. And then I don't think it really hit me until the next day I came back.
Yeah.
And learned that we had been admitted to the oncology floor.
And would you describe that initial reaction as shock or denial?
I think it's more shock. Yeah, I think it was more shock than denial. Just because I think I just wanted to be hopeful and optimistic about it, but it wasn't yet ready to grasp the reality.
Yeah. Ashley, do you feel like your medical history, if you will, as a family, did that sensitize you at all? Or
It did, and honestly, Bobby, something that I have not shared much of is that the half year prior, I thought I had cancer. I thought there was something going on with me. And so I was praying, God, what is it? And I was going to doctor's appointments and getting scans for myself. I knew that there was something revolving around illness, cancer specifically. And so we went on many trips. I felt like I was supposed to have time with the girls. We ate during COVID. This was during COVID. We went on trips and made family memories. And I made videos with the girls a whole bunch during that time. And all this time was praying, God, what is it? Reveal it so that we can do something about it. And I didn't know it was going to be
right. That's all right.
In preparation for what we were about to go through.
Yeah, there's no way to be prepared for that, is there?
No.
There wasn't, but you know what? In the moment of the diagnosis, it was, okay, God, I know what you were doing. You were preparing me for this moment. And so it was a bolstering of, okay, you're aware of this, and you're prompting my heart to be already praying into this. So for me, it wasn't denial. It was just, I was exhausted taking care of a 2-year-old, getting all of the scans and all of that. So, what really hit me was I stayed with Autumn that first night, and John had to go back to Ayla, as he said. But when I was able to leave the hospital and not be caretaker and trying to advocate and ask all the right questions, it was a prayer through a tunnel that I really let it go and experience it. And I had to pull over on the side of the road, and it was a release to the Lord of why, and I don't understand. Which then quickly prompted to no, like your word says this and she will live. And it was almost like a soldier standing up, like I'm not going to stand for this to happen again.
Grabbing hold of something. Yeah.
Yes. And that's where things started to shift for me. And it was hard. We didn't know that we were going to end up spending 103 days total in the hospital after that point. But he was faithful in each moment to meet us in our vulnerability and
well, let's do this.
Pain.
I think it would be helpful. Obviously, I have the advantage of knowing the whole story and watching and walking with you guys through this. But let's zoom out just a moment and kind of take those 103 days over the next year and a half, 2 years maybe it was total, and let's just talk about the some of the medical ups and downs. Obviously, there's so much detail that goes into that. But if you could give some general summary narrative to it, and then what I want us to do is to glean from that, so that people know who are watching today and listening. They know what happened, the story as it progressed, and then we want to glean some things that all of us could apply as we face our own crisis, and then later we'll talk about as leaders how we can minister to others. So both of you can chime in as you want to, but give us a narrative over the next year to 2 years.
Well, to give a oversight, this was during COVID, so. Right. Our time in the hospital, which was total 103 days of living there, was with masks and no one visiting and no real support while we were in the hospital. Yeah. So it started out with that, So it was a lot of back and forth between Jon and I every day, handing off, giving report, going back and caring for our toddler. Thankfully, we had a support system within that, grandparents that lived close by that could help. But once we went into the hospital, we started the biopsy for it, figuring out what kind of cancer it actually was, coming up with a treatment plan, starting that treatment plan. And then there were certain moments that were key moments for us during her process in that 103 days that were the most intense for us. And so I think Jon maybe could share on.
Highlight those.
Yeah, I think one of the most serious incidences that we ran into, they had just done the biopsy, and I think her first round of chemo, and the day after the chemo treatment happened, things went oddly downhill. And I remember I was still trying to work and do some side jobs and stuff that I was doing. And I was just kind of checking in after I was finished, and Ashley was like, "Hey, can you get here?" I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "It's not emergent, but something's happening. I think you should get here." So luckily I was just right down the street. And so I was on the way. And as I was walking into the building, I get a text that says, "You need to get up here now." And so I blast through security, and I'm running upstairs, and I go through, down the hall to the oncology floor where we were at, and I just see commotion. And my heart drops, because I was like, "Oh, that's for us." And so I'm making my way through all the nurses and doctors, people I haven't seen before. And there's nurses running, there's doctors meeting, and I'm just like, what's happening? And Ashley's there with Autumn in her hands, and Autumn is just looking gray.
She's gray. She had lost consciousness. What had happened is that when we started activation of chemotherapy, the response of the tumor was to hemorrhage. Wow. And so she was in a crisis in that moment of life and death.
Sure.
And this is such a God story in this, that the primary care doctor of the overseer of surgery, said, even prior to this happening, there's no way we can cut this thing out. Yeah. She will die on the operating table. She'll bleed out. So when this occurred, we already knew that in our head, what can happen right now? How do we stop this? And so they were pumping her with blood, giving her oxygen. All of her stats were dropping. And in came the surgeon. We can't cut her open. She'll die on the table again. The only option that we have is non-conventional, and we've never done it before, but we have to do it, which was taking her little body over to the adult hospital that's attached to the children's hospital and performing with adult instruments to do an embolization of it, which would go through her groin up to her kidney and try and basically cauterize all of the blood supply from the tumor.
Yeah. Trying to stop the hemorrhage.
Trying to stop the hemorrhage. It was the only way that they could do it. So the doctors from the adult hospital came over and told us, "We don't have time. You can't go to another children's hospital. This is what we have to do. It's our only option."
Yeah, they said there's only 1 or 2 hospitals that have the tools, the proper tools to do this. But what we're going to do hasn't been done before. And so I was like, "Well, let's get her to the hospital." And they said, "We can't. There's no time." Yeah. And so it never, it felt straight out of Grey's Anatomy kind of
right.
movie.
Yeah.
And so we rushed down to the PICU, and they were getting ready for surgery. And I just remember we were like, hey, before the surgeon took her away, we're like, hey, can we pray with you? And he was just like, yeah, immediately, like hands raised and everything. I was just like,
wow,
okay, we're praying.
Yeah.
And from there, she came back. They successfully were able to embolize the tumor. And she was pretty much in an induced coma for 3 weeks?
Yeah, it was almost a month.
Yeah.
We stayed in the PICU, and during that time, we had to let her go. And it was the immediate, it's out of my control. I can do nothing at this point.
Yeah.
But I can pray. And so that's what we did. We called our pastors. We called you. We called a few of our other pastors to come. They permitted my dad to come in. So in a waiting room for about 5 hours, we nonstop were in prayer. And during that time,
this is during that embolization
during the embolization story, during that time, I said, God, I need to hear a word from you. What is this going to do? He was faithful to give me a word when our daughter passed away. And I knew she was going to pass. And so I asked him again, I need a special word from you, Lord. And I heard very clearly, she will not die. I will restore her. She will not die. She will live, and I will restore her full health. And from that point on, I knew in my spirit, then that's what I'm going to pray towards. And we're going to pray for protection over her during this surgery.
And so we went to 3 weeks. They woke her up, and she was able to start breathing on her own. And that's when, and through the course of this time too, she's getting her chemo while she's asleep. And once they wake her back up, we have to kind of, she's been out for so long, and so they moved us to a room with a window, and it was a process to kind of get her clock straightened back up.
Sure.
She had to have a second embolization as well, which was risky.
Complication.
But so we stayed in the PICU for quite a while, recovering and getting prepared. They had a tumor board meeting. They said the only best way is to try and do chemo in between. Hopefully it will not. Hopefully the embolization worked enough for us to do it, shrink it, and then we'll do full tumor removal. Yeah. So that was stage 2 of...
Yeah. Fast forward a couple weeks, we were able to... She's actually doing good. It's weird because we have pictures of her, and she literally looks like a pregnant 2-year-old at this point because it had swollen up and she had so much fluid.
Sure.
So we were able to go up to the oncology ward again, or floor again, and I think a week after we were there is when they had the total removal surgery, and they were successfully able to take out the tumor. They had said it pretty much had liquefied at that point. And so it was a very easy procedure for them to do. They said it was
basically wanted
successful.
To fall out is what they said, which was
what
incredible.
We were praying for.
It was a sticky tumor, and it was stuck to her liver. They had to remove one of her kidneys and multiple things.
But that's where one of the biggest complications came into. Because it was so sticky, I think it stuck to her colon as well, and she started to spike a fever again when she was in recovery in the PICU, and we were all trying to figure out why. And so I forget what kind of tests they did, but they figured out there was some holes in her colon.
Right.
And they ended up having to do an emergency ileostomy on her. And so after all that was really just like a punch in the gut, because we thought we were in the clear. We thought the hardest part was done.
And here you go again.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know what an ileostomy is. Like, what are we talking about here? And then they showed me. I was just like, I don't even know what to do with this. And, of course, they're taking care of it all and stuff. But she ends up doing really well and starts to recover really well, and so they move us back up to the oncology floor, and now this is August. We started all of this in May 7th.
Yeah,
is when
so
we
now
started
we're
all of this.
3 to 4 months.
Yeah, we're in August now, and everything's going really well except for she started to throw up a lot, and no one could figure out why. And so we were kind of in this holding pattern because we were almost ready to go home, but no one felt good about sending us home with her throwing up like this. And so we have meetings and meetings and meetings about what's going on. The different specialists are seeing her and everything. And I just remember, I think it was a Sunday, Ashley and Ayla came to visit, and I asked the team on the floor, I was like, hey, her sister's outside. I was like, can I take her outside so she could see her sister? And they're like, yeah. And so we're able to unhook her from things. And so wheel her downstairs, and Autumn's actually able to sit down and like play with her sister as much as she can. And she sees our car and she wants to go sit in the car. And so we take her and we put her in the car, we're playing music, and they're giggling and laughing. And then all of a sudden we just realized, I was like, she hasn't thrown up. And she was throwing up every like 10 to 20 minutes. Every 10 to 20 minutes. And so we're out there. I'm like out there for almost an hour. And I was like, she hasn't thrown up at all. And so we're like, this is weird. And I think we both were like, I think she's homesick.
Yeah.
It's part of it. Yeah.
We still don't know to this day, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
So we wheeled her back up, and I told the doctors and stuff about that. And then that's when they were like, I think you guys need to go home. And I was terrified. I was like, but there's things.
Yeah.
there's
a lot of
still
things.
throwing up, and then there's this.
I mean, at the point of us coming home, just to clarify, she had been on so many medications and narcotics, and she had an ileostomy, which is 24-hour care, needing to be changed and cleaned.
Sure.
She had an NG tube. She had a pump sump from her stomach, and she was only bag fed for 3 months, and so she had to learn how to walk. She had to do all of this.
Sure.
So it was almost I would not say more terrifying. It was an element of terror for us to go home.
It was a whole nother set of challenges for you.
You go from having this incredible support system with professionals,
and now it's
who
on
know
you.
exactly what they're doing. Yeah, now it's on the two of us, and so
project a little bit so that again we can condense the story from its overwhelming, involved details. Project out a little bit into the next 6 months and where you really begin to find. I'm trying to remember your story exactly myself. Whether or not there was another big mini crisis in there, or whether from that point on did things just slowly progress and improve.
Sure, it did improve. I mean, getting her home, she was so depressed. She was missing home. She hadn't ever been away from home or her sister, or, she would only see mom or dad because we couldn't both stay there.
Right.
And so it was, not a divorce situation, but it was a separated family home. For her.
For both kids,
she didn't understand anything. And so now she's hooked up to all of this stuff. Getting her home, though it was incredibly challenging for Jon and I, her little spirit healed so quickly. Yeah. We had therapies to go to. We still were in the hospital pretty much 3 times a week. We had in-home hospice care that aided as a nurse for us. And so slowly, surely, step by step, we recovered. And a blessing in all of this is that after, it was maybe 8 months afterwards, we needed her to finish out chemotherapy to be able to do a reversal surgery for her ileostomy, because that could become a lifetime management for her. They were able to successfully go in and have another surgery to reverse it, and she's been in the clear. And she is a healthy 6-year-old who doesn't need to take any medication at this point, who's doing cartwheels and flips and loves Jesus.
And continues to get clear signals.
She's getting clear. Yeah. We still, at this point of life, it's medical scans.
Sure.
And so we go in every 4 months for that. We go in every month for six months for her heart doctor. So she calls it my hospital at this point.
Yeah, every time we pass through the tunnel, she's like, my hospital.
So she knows it very well. Her mental well-being through all of this has been sustained as well. Yeah. She has memory flashbacks that we process through, but we've gained tools to be able to help her and support her through it. And us as well throughout this, we knew what steps needed to be taken, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. But to see God's faithfulness from that waiting room of saying she will live and not die, and I will restore her to full health. We're living in that now in the years that followed.
John, I'm curious from your perspective, that was Ashley's word, Rhema, word from God that, kind of has sustained you through that. That's really important, by the way. Just
It is.
I mean, when people face a crisis, whether it be a scripture that comes alive or whether it be a spoken word from the Holy Spirit, having a word to hold on to is vital and critical. So what specifically did God say to you, John?
I just remember waking up and just being completely paralyzed with fear and just being scared because, like I said, cancer to me was a death sentence, and I just like Ashley was saying, had plenty of back and forth shouting matches with the Lord on the way to and from the hospital, just yelling at him, just, please don't do this again. I don't know if I can handle this. And so I started, I picked up my phone, got into my Bible app, and I was like, Lord, just give me something, right? And he brought me to Mark 5, where it says, do not be afraid, just believe. And I was like, okay. And somehow that just kick-started me, and I was physically able to move again. And it was like the Lord really wanted to tell me that.
Isn't it amazing how the simplest words, I mean, sometimes it's one word, but if it's from God, faith comes by hearing the word of God.
I think it's what our family needed, because I also had a dream. I'll try to make it as short as possible, but basically in the dream, it started off as an interview, a video interview, and all I saw was a screen and a news reporter saying, "Sir, the people want to know," and then all of a sudden, a big explosion took him out, and come to find out, I was the sir that they were talking to, the captain or whatever of this military thing that was happening. And I said, "What happened to them?" And they're like, "Well, the enemy took them out, sir." And I was like, "Why?" They're like, "They're trying to get to you." And then I woke up and I was like, what a weird dream to have in the middle of all of this. But I felt like it was the Lord saying, don't stop sharing what's happening. Because we had started sharing about what was happening to Autumn and what we were going through on social media. And at one point we started to question are we sharing too much? And that was almost confirmation from the Lord to be like, no, share everything, because people are watching and people want to know how you're doing and how you're going to get through this.
And I think what it does, it also enables your testimony, the God story, then to have a greater influence and impact when it's all said and done. The end of the story was obviously miraculous, wonderful. You have a thriving daughters now that when I see them running around church, I'm just like, all I can do is think back to 2021.
The same.
Yeah.
That's all I can do.
The same.
But let's talk about some of the, I don't know what the right word is other than support systems. When we face crises, I think one of the worst things we can do is try to go it alone.
Absolutely.
And I think y'all learned a lot about that. So maybe we can highlight a little bit about some of the most helpful approaches that you employed for your own soul care, your own steadiness. Obviously it's like going through an earthquake. You're just trying to find something that you can hold on to. And I'll mention one, and then y'all can add others. And I mention this just because I'm intimately aware of it. But I know that the local church you were attending and are a part of now was at an interesting place coming through COVID. A real kind of a prayer revival had started in the church where it wasn't necessarily affecting all of the church, but a key segment of the church had really just buried themselves in prayer and were gathering together weekly and apart from themselves individually, intercessors, and it was an intercessory group, and they were highly committed. And while they were doing that, dealing with all of the COVID-related challenges of society and life, came Autumn's situation.
Yeah.
And I remember literally taking that need and unpacking all the details that y'all shared with me, including things like, I mean, we were literally giving those intercessors week to week, blow by blow, right?
Yeah.
So when you first heard, y'all decided to name the tumor giant. So
I
remember
Goliath.
I'm sorry, Goliath. Yes, I remember taking that to the team. Then they were like, "Oh, that's great," So they were all energetic about. All right, now we have something to attack Goliath,
Yes.
And then the whole, all the surgeries and all the ups and all the downs. It was a roller coaster of support, a prayer support, of agreement. And it's one thing when you tell a few hundred people to do something. When you've got a really tangible group of 30, 40 people that are really exercising their faith for this, they were taking it to the mat.
Yes.
And every time y'all had a fresh word or a fresh development, that group of prayer warriors, I'm sure there were hundreds of others, that across the country, but I was intimately aware of this group that rarely had I seen people own an individual family's need. Churches, we always have things that go on, but for some reason there was a sense of ownership. Maybe it was just everything else everybody was going through, but they're like, we own this. It was just as if they were walking through it personally themselves. Yeah. And so that, I think we cannot underestimate the impact of, and I don't know how, I'm sure y'all appreciated it, but it was an active, functional piece of the story. And you could go one by one to those people today, and they're like, in fact, I remember, months and a couple of years after that, they would go like, look, God did this for Autumn. He can do this.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So Autumn's story became a faith-giving reminder, just like reading a Bible story of God's victory. It became something that they leaned upon in other prayers. So how did just knowing that was in the background affect y'all?
I think for me, I mean, to speak on, to kind of work backwards a little bit, like I still get stopped.
I'm sure you
even
do.
Last week,
someone
stopped me. I was like, I can't believe it. I'm like, I know. I know.
What can you say?
But the church support was huge. Again, we're going through COVID. We're not seeing anybody. But Crystal would come, our worship pastor would come into the church or into the hospital and be with us. And then, the numerous texts and things we would get from people, voice messages, praying prayers over not just Autumn, but for Ashley and I, because we're just dying here, trying to make it. And then I even remember hearing about how Autumn was prayed for by the kids. Yes. And that was one of the things I think that got me the most, was to know that even the kids were praying for Autumn.
Children in church.
Like in Sunday school and stuff, they were praying for her. Wow. And like when she came back, I heard, obviously I'm not there, but like I heard of some of the teachers being like, that's her, the girl we were praying for.
That's her.
Who is walking amongst us now. And that was so cool. And I think where it really hit me the most, you had come to visit us a night before and you said, how can we be praying for you? And I said, well, this is perfect timing because she has a surgery tomorrow. I think that was a second embolization surgery. And you took the time to just, in the middle of service, I think at the exact time actually, you said, we're going to stop. We don't do this often, but we're going to stop. We're going to pray for the Carolinos right now because this is what they're going through. And it's one thing, I think, for you to just pray, but the how the room erupted. I just listened to this the other day because I was just like, what happened to this? I need to find it. The way the room erupted, and then the numerous video texts I got
of that moment.
Josh sent it to me. Like so many people taped it and and sent it to us. And it was such an encouragement to know, like, all right, like we have this backing, this community of people who are there for us.
I think it's a great example of we use the term sometimes corporate prayer.
Yeah.
But that, when you can get a corporate group in agreement on something,
Yeah.
I mean, it really can
powerful.
it moves mountains.
It unifies. It's the body of
Yes.
believers doing what they're meant to do.
Right.
I mean, if we were obedient to authenticity and saying we're not going to do this alone, we're going to share our story, we're going to invite people to come into our mess, and it's not going to look pretty. And the response, which was so beautiful of the church, was to say, we're all in. We're not just going to passively pray for you once. We're going to be with you all the way through.
It's a big difference.
It was such a difference. It's unified for sure. So many families within our church because of that, and increased our faith as well, and held our arms up when we felt weak.
Yeah.
Actually, when you're thinking about other support systems or things that during the hardest of the times meant the most to you, is there something that comes to your mind? I mean, obviously, family, your own family support system is vital. If there's anything you can just think of to mention.
Truly, I mean, our pastoral staff coming alongside us, it wasn't just a sent text. It was, we're going to provide food for you, and it's going to be at your house at this point. It was an action. Our church community, our community around us, just went into action. We didn't have to give them answers of what to do. They just did. They provided meals for us. They came and cleaned our home.
DoorDash cards specifically.
They gave us DoorDash.
The first week, everyone wanted to bring you. Well, everyone wants to bring you meals, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, "Look, guys, we're not home.
Yeah.
Like, we're on the go.
Yeah.
Like, all this is just going to go to waste, and now I have to clean it up." And they're like, "Well, what's the best way to support you?" And I was like, DoorDash cards, because we were ordering Jimmy John's every day because we were just getting so sick of hospital food.
Lived off Jimmy John's and Starbucks. That's what made us through. But
and lady, this program has been brought to you by DoorDash.
But it was truly, it was such a relief to know that multiple of our strains that we would have had were non-existent. With John's work, for example, one of the biggest supports for us that would have been a high strain is finances and figuring on navigating we're one home income. And God placed John in the season of life under a Christian company where they really wanted to love and support us.
Yeah, it's huge.
And so the strain of finances was not there.
Even with the medical bills, we learned that if you stay longer than 30 days or something at the time, we can get Medicaid. Yeah. And we didn't have to pay a single dime of that $103 day stay.
That's amazing.
I mean, the provision of the Lord was all throughout. Another way that we had support was, like I mentioned, we couldn't have visitors. We couldn't have family come into the hospital with us. Only clergy could come in. So my father, Grandpa got,
I remember this.
He got ministered. He went through all of the training to be able to become an ordained minister, to be able to go in and at least give us some reprieve for Autumn to have comfort. And, we were rallied around in so many ways, taking care of our cars, taking care of our home, taking, every single way. People just showed up. It was not just words.
Yeah. That's powerful.
So.
Let's talk just for a moment about the impact that walking through a challenge and crisis of this caliber, because again, it's not like having a flat tire, right? These are life and death, moment by moment, where it's 911 to the nth degree. These things affect us on more levels than what we realize, and you had all the types of challenges that you have described so well. But let's talk about the impact in other levels. First of all, your spiritual lives. So talk honestly for a moment about not just during that time, but even post incident. Would you say that you would describe your spiritual life as having been strengthened? Was it your faith muscles growing, or was it putting you back 5 steps and you had to recover? I mean, kind of describe the impact on your spiritual lives, and then we'll talk about marriage and other things too.
So, in the spiritual sense, I think my faith was completely bolstered. In the loss of our first daughter, Isabella, I had that prayer of, I believe, Lord, but help me with my intense unbelief of healing.
Yeah.
And it was a continued prayer for years. I mean, until this situation arose of, I want to believe in your healing, God, but you didn't heal Isabella in the way that I hoped you to. And so there was this fire of faith that stirred up within me in autumn. And it was years of praying that prayer, believing, but needing help in my faith of that, studying what healing was, growing in my understanding of that, going towards him rather than away from him. And that during this moment with Autumn, my faith was bolstered. I felt a strong urgency that she was going to recover, that this was going to be a testimony for his glory. But what I found is that days after days after days of needing to advocate, I had to turn off my emotions. And so I was kind of a walking robot of, I believe your word, God, but I can't feel my emotions right now fully because I have to be the advocate for her. I have to put on, mom caretaker for Ayla. And so the months that followed after that was having to rediscover not to disassociate.
Yeah.
And that God cared for my emotions and that I could start to slowly feel them and process. Yeah. But it took months afterwards, years almost, in therapy and good counsel from other believers that would speak into my life, that maybe I had shut off my emotions.
But clearly these kinds of crises impact us at multiple levels.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Intellectual, spiritual, emotional. Mm-hmm. And I think many Christian families and Christian individuals simply never process that. They never either allow themselves to acknowledge that they're being impacted. But I think I want people to really walk away with that understanding in a greater way today. Yeah. Yeah. So, Jon, what about you on that, on the spiritual level and then beyond?
On the spiritual level, for sure, the same thing. I had a really hard time believing in the spiritual aspect of healing. So to me, walking through all that was very redemptive of what happened with Isabella as well. And so that was very powerful for me, and had really allowed me to believe in that sense again. The Lord just allowed me to see it, and I think that's what I needed. And I think the other part was still holding on to that scripture. I mean, even to this day, when I'm dealing with different
something else,
other things that I'm just like, oh man, this seems heavy, and it's just like, no.
Mm-hmm. Mark 5.
Don't be afraid, because I think I just have a fear tendency just because of all the past trauma.
Right.
It's easy for me to go there, but it's also now easier for me to pull myself out of it.
Sure. Absolutely.
I think a tool we learned too is that you have to learn. Actually, let you talk about that.
Yeah. What
you learned in your therapies, that not everything is a 10.
Yeah.
So regaining that.
Yeah. And this was really in 2023. I think I started going to more intense counseling to kind of deal with some heavier stuff that, came to the surface going through everything. Being a caretaker is so much harder than what it looks like on the surface. And the strain that it put on our marriage and on our family, I didn't expect at all. And so started counseling in 2023 again, and realized, one of the things I had to work through was like, not every crisis or situation or even just a hard thing is a 10. Yeah. Because I tended to think that every stressful situation in my life at that point,
you automatically classified it as a 10.
Right. So it didn't matter if, like, I don't know, if there was like a financial thing, or if there was, if Autumn got a cold or something like that. It always, the stress levels just kind of went through the roof for both of us. And that was something that I was able to learn, is to kind of scale that stress level back down.
Yeah. I know it's probably multi-layered and involved, but obviously you're sitting here today and you're married and the family's doing well. But
We did it.
there had to be impacts upon the marriage. There was the separation alone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you're warring together, but you're kind of on different shifts.
Right. Yeah.
So give me some description of how you feel like your marriage endured through this.
I think because of what we've gone through before, I mean, really early on in our marriage too, unfortunately, we're kind of used to working in traumatic situations together. We know we were able to, care for each other a little bit while we were seeing each other, but we lacked intimate connection. Really just the ability to talk to each other for more than 45 minutes before we had to switch.
Sure.
And then even when we came home, it started to get even
harder.
more. Yeah, it was even harder because now it's just like I'm starting to go back to work too, and then she's left all alone with all the medical stuff, and then I'm staying up through the night checking ileostomy bags and all that stuff, and so like there's just no time for us. And the strain was, like I said, like when we got home, things just started to surface and things just got harder and harder, and the strain it took on the marriage was intense.
Yeah, most professionals will tell you when you're right smack in the middle of it and you're just trying to stay you're breathing and going through it. It's just kind of like adrenaline, but that there's your body and your mind and all just kind of rises to the moment. It's really when things start to kind of settle down. That's when the stuff, particularly relational conflicts and things, that's when it's really difficult.
Yeah.
How about you?
We knew that we grieve differently.
Right.
We process completely differently. And so it was trying to have grace for us to both experience that differently, but to know that we were still on the same team. Yeah. We didn't agree. We didn't grieve the same. We didn't process any of the same. Our habits of trying to heal and disassociate and do different things, we had bad habits. And it was all because we were trying to survive. And so the biggest thing for me, my takeaway, and I believe why we're still married today is because we committed that we would be a team, that it wasn't going to be you against me. It was we're going to call it out for what it was. And so we have gone through some things, and I'm so thankful that we are where we are today and the healing that we both committed to do individually and as a couple and as a family. We sometimes surviving is the success.
And you're continuing on. It continues.
I think it's interesting because it's like, spiritually we knew we were locked into this covenant, and not like, we're locked in. Like we wanted to be here. Like we want to be married, but the things just tear at you. And we would remind ourselves like, hey, like we're trying to do this together. So what do we need to do to make sure that we can do well together? And I remember, we started to try to do marriage counseling again, and we were just kind of like, we kind of know what she's going to say. And I was like, maybe we need individual counseling before we do marriage counseling. And so, we went into kind of specialized counseling stuff to kind of help dealing with, past traumas and stuff. And, that really set us on a much better path to not just get through what we went through, but like process how to change how we process things, and which ultimately I think changed how we communicated with each other as well.
It unified us. And also learning how to have fun again. That life can be fun and joy, and that can be a wonderful, beautiful testimony of what God has done, and we can table that, and we can find the new normal together.
I really appreciate the Carolinos' authenticity today and being willing to be real and share. That's how we all glean and learn from one another. So let me take just a moment as we wrap up today's podcast to encourage those of you who are in leadership roles, caregiving roles, pastoral roles, outreach roles, whatever leadership you may be in. Maybe it's being the mother or the husband or the grandparent. As we said from the onset, crises are normal to life. Unfortunately, adversity is simply a part of life. The question is how you're going to face it, how you're going to deal with it, and you're going to have some choices, some important choices to make. So let me just encourage those of you who are caregivers and leaders, be sensitive, develop a level of sensitivity, and love just is the way to go. It's so easy to discount or to dismiss what other people are going through. If they simply know you may not have the right words all the time, sometimes it's just being present and being available to love people as they're facing their crisis. And don't allow your discomfort to take you out of the game, and help to lead people through it by being vulnerable yourself, but also loving them through it, walking with them, praying with them through it. That's so important. And if you're facing a crisis, or maybe it's next week you're going to face it, please take it to Christ, take it to the Lord, and listen carefully for His word. You won't have all the answers, but lean into Him, lean heavy upon Him, and God will get you through it. And your results may be not quite as amazingly magnificent as this testimony today, but you'll have God's plan in your life, and you'll be able to receive it, walk in it, and rejoice. So important that you keep your eyes on Him and don't stop trusting. Stop trying and just trust. That's a good message for you today. Thank you for joining us today on Learning to Lead, and I encourage you to like and to subscribe to this channel, and that will help us to continue. God bless you. See you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Learning to Lead. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and follow Dr. Bobby Hill on social media for more inspiration, insights, and updates. For more information on his ministry roles and resources, visit drbobbyhill.com.